Good evening, welcome back. It is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. We have a bunch of birthdays to get through and only really one event to talk about. I was looking through the events, and there's several events, and looking at the results, and looking at the winners, and looking at the non-finishers and non-winners and everything. Couldn't find any race that was really super important. Probably the most important race was on this day in 1992. Rusty Wallace won at Richmond. This would be the second ever night race at Richmond. Of course, the first was the prior year, 91. And that's on the modern layout. They may have had some night races on the fairgrounds that I'm not aware of. Excuse me, but this was Ricky's only win of the 1992 Cup season. And 92, of course, was an awkward season all around, with Earnhardt only having one win and finishing 11th, 12th in points after winning, two titles previous 2 years in 90 and 91. Koike winning the championship by 10 points and having 6 drivers eligible mathematically in the final race. 92 was just an anomaly of a year. So anyway, let's get to our birthdays here. Got a few with no cards, so we'll rapid fire through those pretty quick. Born on this day in 1916, sadly passed away at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1961 during practice. Tony Bettenhausen Sr. He was from Tinley Park, Illinois. Was known as the Tinley Park Express. Of course, father of Tony Jr., Gary, and Merle Bettenhausen, all three racing brothers that followed in their father's footsteps. Born on this day in 1946, he is the uncle of a Cup Series champion and ran in the Cup Series back in the early and mid-70s a little bit. Ron Keselowski. He's the brother of Bob and the uncle of Brad Kay. So, Ron Keselowski. And another one that we don't have cards for, born on this day in 1998, part-time ARCA driver. You'll recognize the name, but it's not the one you're thinking of. Tim Richmond. So in 1998, there was a Tim Richmond born, no relation to the NASCAR Tim Richmond, though this guy has run similar paint schemes and has recently run the number 27 frequently. So I think it's kind of cool that two drivers with the same name, both end up in Tim Richmond won. The first Tim Richmond did race some in the ARCA series, so I think that's pretty cool. Excuse me. So let's get to our birthdays. Start on this day, 1950, part-time Cup driver from about 1983, and I think he ran his last race in around 1989 or 90. He's the father of a two-time Cup Series race winner, Ken Reagan. Of course, he's the father of David, but Ken ran his own machines. You see the Jasper on his uniform in the car here. Strangely enough, it was the number 77 Jasper car, but it was not the Jasper 77 that, like, Shepard and Presley and Hill and all those guys would drive. It's just coincidental that it carried the same sponsor and had the same number. So moving on, born on this day in 1959, sadly passed away in 2022, part of a racing family, Mr. Randy Pemberton. Of course, he's the brother of Robin and Roman and Ryan Pemberton, and he was more in the media end of it, so there's a little bit of information about Randy Pemberton. He did have a really good career in broadcasting. Next on our list, born on this date in 2000, which I think is kind of eerie when you consider that his cousin passed away in 2000. It'd be Mr. Thad Moffitt. Of course, both are grandsons, Thad Moffitt and Adam Petty, both grandsons of Richard Petty. Adam, obviously, being the son of Kyle. I can't remember which daughter Thad Moffitt is the daughter of, or son of, but which daughter of Richard Petty he's the son of. It's either Sharon, Lisa, or Rebecca. I'm sure somebody out there will know. Always loved that STP uniform that he had. Got to meet him at Raceway Park a few years ago. Really nice young man. Really likable personality. Hope he can, I know he's road racing some this year, but hopefully he can get a good break and get a good ride. And our final birthday, born on this day in 1956, multiple-time winner in the Cup Series, runner-up in points. He's a former IROC champion and won races for many, many, many years. Hopefully he'll get in the Hall of Fame sooner rather than later. Excuse me. We're talking about none other than Rooster himself, Ricky Rudd. So obviously we got a 1990 uniform here, Levi Garrett, when he was with Rick Hendrick. I got a ton of Ricky Rudd cards, but we're not only going to show a few because he was long in the tooth with some of these sponsors, stuck with him for a long time. So we got tied here when he was with Hendrick. There's that IROC championship we spoke of. Brickyard 400 in 1997. I was at that race. Pretty cool to see. You know, I wouldn't consider Rudd an underdog, but when the first three winners are Gordon, Earnhardt, and Jarrett, and you're the fourth winner of the Brickyard, that puts you in good company. But Rudd never won a championship and didn't win near as many races in any of those other three. I think Jarrett has 34, 35 wins. Rudd has, I think, 20, 21, 22 wins, somewhere in there. So he was closer to Jarrett in the win column, but again, never got that championship. So definitely not an underdog, but more of a surprise winner for that race. Of course, he changed his uniform up when he bought his own team a little bit. Still tied, but went from Chevy to Ford. Then when he shut his team down, he went to race for Robert Yates in the famous Texaco Haviland car. Then they kind of switched up their look a little bit and was using more of the Haviland branding a little bit with the blue and such. Then we have a few different Motorcraft paint jobs or paint schemes and uniforms when he went to the Wood Brothers. So he was there for a few years, and I thought this was going to be a strong team, but it just didn't pan out. Then he took a year off. Then he went back to Yates for one more year with some Snickers colors, and then finally retired. So we do have a few car cards here we'll show you. We got the 5-car, the Lumina for Hendrick Motorsports. Then we have the Tide Thunderbird, and then a Taurus. Who's that on the outside? There's, so if this is 98 or 99, that's going to be Dallenbach if this is 99 to his outside. We have an alternate paint scheme here with Mountain Spring on the hood. Then there's the Texaco car he took over in 2000. We talked about they focused on the Haviland branding. So there you see more of the Haviland name and less of the Texaco star. And then there's an Iron Man when he had broke Labonte's consecutive start record. Of course, that would later be broken by Gordon. The Wood Brothers car. And then his final ride with Yates, that Snickers, and the ugly COT. So there you have it, birthdays and events. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We'll rip something. We'll find something to rip. We'll have some fun. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow.